And right now, more than ever, we need a commander-in-chief, a George Washington of our era, who will lead us to victory in that war. They shot at George Washington while he crossed the Delaware. They shot at Donald Trump, too. But that man who's going to lead us to victory is your 47th president, Donald J. Trump, as the next president of the United States. And we're going to send him to the White House, I think, decisively next week. But we don't get that second Trump term and the full agenda unless we also have lasting control of the U.S. Senate, decisive margins in the U.S. Senate as well. And the thing about Ohio, I'm going to be going to the Ohio State-Penn State game tomorrow. I got a complicated job because my wife works at Ohio State. We're Buckeyes, but I also got to court Pennsylvania voters, so we're going to be, doing a little bit of an interesting moment of honesty tomorrow. But Ohio isn't going to be the state that decides this presidential election. Thankfully, we have made Ohio a strong, conservative, reliable red state in the presidential elections, and we're going to keep it that way. But Ohio will be the state that decides whether we get to implement Trump's agenda into a second Trump term. And that comes down to whether we send Bernie Moreno back to the Senate and send Sherrod Brown packing. That's up to each of you. That's up to us. That's what the nation is counting on Ohio to do this time around. I'm asking you to make that sacrifice. Talk to the people around the state. Bernie's not going to mind me saying this because it's truth. Donald Trump is going to win this state likely by double-digit margins, all right? I think he's going to win the state decisively. Bernie is in a close race right now. I think it's fair to characterize it that way, a very close race with Sherrod Brown. I mean, the guy's been literally in the U.S. Senate since before I was born, and so he has a habit of knowing how to run these elections. But think about this. That means there's people who aren't in this room, I hope they're not in this room, who are going to vote for Donald Trump at the top of the ticket, but are going to vote for Sherrod Brown later down on the ticket. It doesn't make sense. So I'm not looking to just preach to the people who agree with us. Those are the people in this room. We need to get to the people who aren't in this room who are about to make that mistake. If 1 out of 10 of those people who are already going to vote for Donald Trump already then switch from Sherrod Brown to Bernie Moreno, this man's our next senator. We have a majority in the U.S. Senate. And I'll tell you what to tell them. Here's the truth. Here's the hard truth. Sherrod Brown voted to remove Donald Trump from office not once but twice. They impeached him. He voted to remove Donald Trump. So think about the logic. If you're voting for Donald Trump, but then you're also voting for Sherrod Brown, what do you think he's going to do if we send him back a third time? You mark my words, it's going to be something. They're going to try to vote him out of office again. We say hell no to that vision, just like we say hell no to issue 1, by the way. Don't vote. Somebody asked me this beforehand. Do you want to vote no on issue 1? I said, no. We vote hell no on issue 1. Actually, this is how we protect our state. And so we're going to send Donald Trump to the White House at the top of the ballot. But this time, Ohio decides a lot of importance all the way down the ballot, from sending Bernie Moreno back to the U.S. Senate, to save this country as an outsider. But focus all the way down to the bottom as well. And I'm asking every one of you, the things I'm telling you about Bernie versus Sherrod Brown, tell 10 people who aren't in this room, because that's what it's going to take. The same thing when it comes down to issue 1 as well. I mean, this one's near and dear to the heart of Ohio's future. Okay, this is a left-wing plot to turn Ohio blue because they couldn't convince the voters statewide to do it. Here's what's going on, because, first when I wish I had learned about this issue last year. I wish I had learned about this issue much earlier because we could have explained this much better to the people of the state. The more confusing it is, that means the more you have to pay attention. So in the 4 days we have left, because this is going to come down to a razor-thin margin, I'm going to ask each of you to go out and tell those same 10 people about what's actually at stake on issue 1 as well. Right now, the way we set our district lines, most of you know this, but it's worth saying it anyway, is set by 7 people, 3 of which are statewide elected officials. Because otherwise, there's 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, so that's a tie from the legislature. But there's 3 people, the governor, the auditor, and the secretary of state, who decide it. And the beauty of those elections, including, like several on the stage, we got Keith Faber here with us, right? He's one of them. Those elections are statewide. It doesn't matter how you draw those lines. The whole state gets to decide it democratically. And if you don't like the way they did it, there's a beautiful mechanism we have in America and in Ohio is you vote them out. They don't want the people to decide. They now want it to be a committee of 15 unelected bureaucrats, effectively 15 Anthony Faucis, deciding how we draw our own district lines. And even worse, they don't want you as the voter to be able to vote them out. So I asked the question because, they served me up the talking points, and okay, I got the talking points, but I want to get to the bottom of this. I want to understand the best argument for the other side, to what's really going on. So what if they commit a felony? Can you remove them if they commit a felony? No, you can't. Can the voters vote them out if they commit a felony? No, you can't. Who can remove them? Only the other 14 other Anthony Faucis on that committee. It doesn't make any sense. Now, you can't make this stuff up. It gets one step worse than that. Not only do they not want you or us as the voters to be able to vote them out, they also don't even want us, the voters, to be able to talk to them. And if you do, I'm not making this up, they will report you to the government like you're some kind of criminal. This is Orwellian. You can't make this stuff up. And how would this ever pass? The answer is we've tried this in the state in the past. None of these things have ever passed, except this time something's different. You got the money being spent, including, I'm not even kidding you, by a Swiss billionaire who there's no evidence to suggest he's even a U.S. citizen, is a citizen of a different country, spending $5 million to govern the way we run our own elections in Ohio. That doesn't make any sense. It's the Great Reset globally arriving in our own backyard, and that's why I say we don't vote no on issue 1. We vote hell no on issue 1. Keep Ohio a self-governed state, and that's what I'm asking of every one of you to do, too.